Hi, so I'm Angelina. I know you're coming in just because you have a couple of questions, essentially about what to do. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what brought you in here?
Hi, nice to meet you, Angelina.
Hi.
So I guess I'm not really too sure what to do at this point. I have a bachelor's in psychology and I got my master's in criminology, and I'm just not sure how I feel about it. I'm like stuck because I don't know if it's something I actually want to stay with. And I guess, yeah, I'm not too sure because criminology and psychology can both be like the same, can be in the same field, but I think I'm leaning more towards like counseling and mental health. So I just don't know how to go about that.
Okay. What made you go from your undergrad in psychology to a master's in criminology?
Mm. So I guess, let me think. I took one course in criminology my senior year, and I fell in love with it. So I guess that kind of
So it's
happened.
one of your interests. That's good.
Yeah, so it kind of happened that way. I like to study why people deviate from the social norms, and they were offering a master's program at my college, and I thought it was just easy to just get in, and I was pretty comfortable with it since it was at my original college. So that's kind of how it led to that.
Okay, cool. Um, and then I know you said you're considering maybe getting into counseling. What kind of is taking you to that route more than criminology?
So uh, I think counseling psychology was my passion originally, but I just wasn't sure what to do. And I felt more comfortable just staying with my original college, the college I came from. And they didn't offer a master's program in counseling or psychology or anything like that. So I just stuck with my original college to do criminology. But I think I just want to go back to counseling just because I enjoy it and I have some experience in it right now.
Okay. And what college did you go to for undergrad and your master's degree in criminology?
So I went to St. Vincent.
Okay. All right. Have you explored any programs for counseling?
I haven't really gotten there yet.
Okay, we'll
Um,
get there. No rush. I was just wondering where you're at in the process, what you're thinking about, what you're not thinking about. Um, but that's all good to know. I just wanted to kind of know like where you are right now. But why don't you tell me a little bit about your career history, the first job you can remember, and that whole, kind of timeline, and then the last job you can remember working.
okay. So I guess I never really started into my career until my current job right now.
Okay.
I did little part-time jobs when I was in college, and then I did a um, internship at a counseling place actually for my undergrad, but my master's didn't really want they didn't like it wasn't required to do an internship there, so I was just sticking at my part-time job at Target at the time, just because I was still in college. I didn't
Mhm.
think I should jump into my career at this point. So right now I work in a drug and alcohol facility. So I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. And I kind of got into that position because I had the background in criminology with a
Okay.
master's. So I was able to start with that. And that's kind of where I started liking counseling more.
That's good that you were able to use your other master's degree while working towards, the one that you eventually want to get. Um, what was that experience like for you, or what is that experience like for you now working at the drug and alcohol facility?
Yeah, so I do like working with drug and alcohol, but I felt like I'm kind of getting too comfortable with it. Um, I really haven't worked with mental health, but I like the counseling aspect of it, getting to talk to people and help them or guide them in a certain direction or encourage them. So I like that aspect. I just haven't gone into mental health yet.
Okay. Yeah. So I hope maybe in the future just look for maybe jobs more related to mental health. But with your drug and alcohol job right now, did you always have an interest in working with drug and alcohol, or was it kind of the opportunity presented to you and you took advantage of it?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was the opportunity that I just took advantage of at that point. It was the first job I got accepted. I'm like, I'll go for it. It's with
Mhm.
counseling, so I'll go for it.
Yeah. And do you feel you're learning anything from this experience?
Yeah, I think I'm learning that I don't want to stick in drug and alcohol.
Hmm.
So, and I know I need kind of like a license or just a mental health background to be able to work more with mental health people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Sometimes you need to work jobs to know what you don't want to do. And that can help you, with your future career and understanding what you do want to do. Um, but what about some other areas of your life? What are some of your hobbies, some things you do outside of work?
So let's see. I guess I like to try to stay active and fit. So I work out, I try to run. That helps release like my stress and
Mhm.
anxiety. Other than that, I like to stay in. I'm a person that rather just stay home and watch movies instead of going out.
Mhm. Sometimes you need that me time, that
Mhm.
quiet, peaceful, just you and no one else. Those are both good, really coping skills, especially, if you want to go into the mental health field, it's good to have those self care routines and coping skills to use. Um, which will kind of take us back to your career. What are some things that you're looking for in your career? Do you need a certain salary? Do you plan on living in the area?
So I think with all of the student loan I have right now, I need a higher salary. Definitely that's something I'm looking for. And for the area, I don't think it really matters. I'm not really looking to live in a big city, but somewhere maybe bigger than the area I'm in now, the suburbs area,
Hmm.
something maybe a little bit bigger that
Okay.
offers more.
Okay. So no big cities and decent salary.
Mhm.
That's what we're looking for. What about, I know you said the location doesn't really matter, just no big cities. What about the hours? Do you have, people you're taking care of? Are there certain hours you wouldn't be able to work?
Yeah, so I don't think that really matters at this point. It's just me and my dog, so I'm flexible.
Yeah. You never know, your dog might miss you when you're working all day long.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess going off of that, I just wanted to know, what are some of the contingencies with, what career you're looking for? Because it is important to consider those things before and during, going through the process of looking for a career. Because if you're maybe aiming for a career in the mental health field that doesn't pay well, um, that's one of your things that you want to meet. So I feel it would be important to introduce you to some assessments. So there are a couple of assessments that I like to use um, with students, especially who are trying to figure out what to do. And that's essentially why you're here, because you have educational background, you have work experience. So it's just about kind of fitting you in where you feel you'll do your best work. So there's the 16 personalities assessment, which will look at, your personality trait and which of your traits um, reflect which jobs, you would excel in. And then there's also So then there's also the focus assessments, which is 5 assessments that look into your work interests, your values, your personality, skills, and then leisure interest. And then you can use those and look at, what occupations fit all of those things that you covered in the assessments. They're detailed questions. It won't take you that long, but I feel it could help you kind of narrow down what careers fit what you're expecting them to. And that can also just help clarify, what jobs won't fit your needs and what jobs will fit your needs. So do you feel like that's something that might, be helpful?
Yeah, definitely lead me to a better direction than I am right now.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll do that. So that'll be your homework for next week. Do you have any questions about the assessments or anything that we covered today?
Nope, it seems straightforward. So I can do that.
Yep. All right, sounds good. So I'll see you next week.
Bye.
All right, bye. Hi, Marissa. So I know when we met last week, I gave you a little bit of a homework assignment going through those 2 assessments, the 16 personalities, and then those focus, including those 5 assessments. So I'm going to share my screen so we can go over them, but I want to ask you first how you reacted to those assessments.
Yeah, I definitely thought the assessments were very beneficial. A lot of it was very accurate and reflected my personality, especially the 16 personalities. I thought that just was just right, was perfect. And then assessment, it kind of led me to a direction where I think I'm going with the counseling. So it was a clearer picture.
Yeah, kind of validated, what you were thinking and feeling about where to go with your career. So that's really good. I'm happy to hear that. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can do this. All right, we'll start with the 16 personalities because I know you said it kind of like hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
So can you see the screen okay?
Yes, I can.
I'm going to zoom in though so we can see it a little bit further. All right, so this would be the work interest assessment on part of that, the focus ones. So were you surprised to see that you got these results, the social, investigative, and artistic?
No, I thought they were fairly accurate because social, I like to help people. Investigative kind of resembled why I went to criminology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, artistic kind of was just the same. Like I like artistic things. So yeah, I think it was fairly accurate.
That's good. So let's kind of go through these. So social, the helpers, prefer to work with others, with a team approach, problem solving. Do you prefer to work with others or are you more of an independent worker?
I don't mind working with others. I'm fairly flexible. I don't really have an opinion for that.
Okay. But I know you said you like helping others, so you obviously, like you care for others. Meeting new people, I'm sure you're always meeting new people at the job you have now. Highly verbal, express yourself well. Would you describe yourself as cooperative, friendly, and understanding?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Those are definitely. Mm-hmm.
That's good. And then investigative, often work in jobs that are scientific in nature, involves analysis, formulas, graphs, numbers. So you might even be using, not particularly this assessment, but other assessments at work. So kind of using, like it says, that scientific in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Then the artistic, expressive, likes the opportunity to create new things, using your imagination and being creative.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's I'm happy that it kind of does reflect who you are. And then let's go into the values assessment. So helping others, income, and influence. I know last session we talked about your income and how that's important to you. but also so is helping others.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that they popped up on your values assessment. What about this influence? Persuading and influencing others to change their attitudes, beliefs, and or opinions.
Yeah, I think that kind of reflects with like counseling. I try not to persuade people, especially at work, but I try to influence them and for encourage them to live a happier and healthier life. So I could see that coming up for sure.
Yeah, especially I know you said you don't want to work in drug and alcohol, but you currently are. And I know you don't want to persuade them, but influencing, their behavior, and essentially that's what they need to change. So it's interesting to see how your values also go hand in hand with your job right now. So then next, the personality assessment. So your personality type, I know you said the assessment kind of matched up to who you are, but is there anything on here that you kind of like, oh, that's not me?
So probably adapting to changing situations, the last part for the personality.
Okay.
Because I think I like to have a norm. And so that might be something is just trying to adapt to certain situations might be a little more difficult for me.
Okay. Yeah. Would adapting to a new job or career be difficult for you? Or is it more so smaller situations?
I think it would be for a job because I like to stay, like I like to stick with my jobs. I never left a job more than maybe like 2 years. Any job I was with was at least for 2 years, even though I might not like it. I just never leave it. I stick it out to the end until I'm tired of it. So that might be something I could see being an issue.
Yeah. But hopefully with all those other personality traits that come with your personality type, you'll be able to, value the work you're doing and also realize you could be doing more in another aspect of that career. So let's see what it says. Choosing your career. People with your personality type are attached to occupations where you can work directly with people in ways that help contribute their well-being. Examples of such occupations can be found in fields such as healthcare, community services, counseling, teaching, and some areas of business. So it really is just hitting the head on the nail again. Community services, healthcare, counseling, which is something you might want to do in the future. Then the skills assessment, listening, managing people, and social perceptiveness. Let's just read through this real quick. Managing people, assigning duties to others, motivating them, evaluating their performance. Do you find yourself liking that responsibility?
Yeah. I was like a leader at my last job, so that kind of reflects that for sure.
Yeah. And listening, if you are going into counseling, you need those listening skills and that social perceptiveness too. Just being aware of the reaction of others and obviously understanding why they react the way that they do.
Right. Yeah.
Then leisure interest assessment. So inquiring, aesthetic, and sharing. So inquiring looks like we're the thinkers. So you'd like to be involved in activities that have to do with ideas and thinking. You like to observe, learn, and investigate, analyze, or solve problems. So that would make sense. You want to get into counseling. Prefer working with ideas rather than people or things. Often described as analytical, curious, cautious, precise, intellectual, and modest. You think those are kind of or characteristic traits that you have?
Yeah, definitely. Especially being precise and methodical. Yeah, that I like to see the facts for sure. It might be something that's not always fits well with like counseling because it's more about your feelings, but I like to see facts.
Well, you could also, in counseling, like we are now, we're using an assessment. You can go through those assessments and kind of use those facts you get from the assessments and, incorporate that or utilize those in counseling.
You're right.
So aesthetic, the creators, you tend to be creative and intuitive. Maybe enjoy like artistic activities. And like using those activities or like your imagination and creativity in your work environment. Open, imaginative, intuitive, idealistic, and unconventional. And then the third part of the leisure interest assessment, you got sharing or the helpers, which is a reoccurring theme in all of these assessments that you took. You got the helpers and the thinkers a lot too. So enjoy helping people. You're concerned about the welfares of others. Seen as helpful, responsible, idealistic, friendly, and kind, and those are all amazing qualities to have. So let's see some of your saved occupations. Okay, so counseling psychologist, that's sounds like something you want to do in the future and what we're headed towards. So it would make sense that this is one of your saved ones. And criminal justice professor, I know you said you have a master's in criminology, so that would be something you could incorporate into that. Curriculum and assessment director, health psychologist, mental health counselor, psychology professor. So once again, bringing up those recurring themes, it looks like you have a lot of psychology, helping people, careers where you often have to use your brain, sometimes think outside of the box. And after reviewing all of these assessments, it sounds like that is the type of person that you are. So it makes sense that you would fit well in one of these work environments. And Holland, a psychologist, actually came up with a hexagonal model where you can view your personality type and your work environment and see where they kind of match up. And he looks at 6 different personality types and 6 different work environments. And he believes that if the closer that they are together on the hexagonal model, the happier you'll be. So if your work environment is currently right now, we'll say investigative, and your goal is to be investigative too, if that would mean that they are, perfect match, so you would be more likely to be happy in that career field. But if you were looking for an artistic job and you were all the way down at conventional, Holland would believe that you are less likely to be happy. But now that we looked at this, let's move on to the 16 personality, or not the 16, yes, the 16 personalities. So this is you, and you got the turbulent defender. And then you got code ISFJT, your role is sentinel, and your strategy is constant improvement. So let's just scroll down. I want to go over all this and then we'll kind of go into detail about all of it. So personality traits, once again, there goes that mind, the energy, nature, tactics, and identity. So it looks like nature was, so feelings is almost at 80%. And then your second highest is identity. So that turbulent aspect or trait. And then mind, tactics, and energy. Is there any listed here that you don't feel meets your personality trait?
Let's see. I'm not sure if it's sharing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Of course it isn't.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So there's your personality traits. Sorry about that, but you can see them all listed there. So there's 5 of them. Is there any there that you feel doesn't necessarily fit your personality trait?
Definitely judging. Yeah. Um, I definitely have a hard time judging things. So I'm surprised how high it is. And I'm
Okay.
surprised how low energy and observant is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have also just been, when there's assessments like these, there might be a question or a phrase that's kind of worded differently, and you might have had a hard time understanding a question. But sometimes, yeah, that's why these assessments are good to do. It's interesting to see, where you fall in these personality traits, because you might have thought, oh, I'm more observant and introverted than I am judging, when it turns out it's the opposite. So mine, you are more so introverted than you are extroverted. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
like to stay in.
Yeah. You did say that last session. You like to stay in and watch movies. See this in. So you prefer solitary activities. Do you find yourself tired after social interaction?
Absolutely.
Yeah. More quiet, sensitive. And then this energy. So looks like you are more observant than intuitive, but it's still like 54 and 46, not that far away from each other.
Yeah.
So observant individuals are highly practical, pragmatic, and down to earth. And going over the last 5 assessments we went over, I could see how that would make sense. Once we go on to nature, so this trait determines how we make decisions and cope with emotions. So we gotta have a really big jump here, 79 and then 21% thinking. So it says Marissa is mostly feeling. Feeling individuals are sensitive and emotionally expressive, more empathetic and less competitive than thinking types, and focus on social harmony and cooperation. And this goes back to, you wanting to help people. You have to be empathetic, emotionally expressive, because you want them to be emotionally expressive, and you do need to focus on social harmony too. Tactics. So this trait reflects our approach to work, planning, and decision making. So there's the judging and the prospecting. So let's see. Judging individuals are decisive, thorough, and highly organized. So did you think of decisive, thorough, and highly organized when you thought of judging earlier, or does this kind of fit who you are?
Oh, absolutely not.
No?
Yeah, I don't make decisions well, and I'm not very organized. So I can see why they're both kind of close.
Yeah, they are kind of close. What about clarity, predictability, and closure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer structure. Like I said, I like to have that norm, like to be in the same place. So it's usually structured a certain way. So I could see that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see which ones do reflect who you are and which ones don't. So the identity, this trait underpins all others, showing how confident we are in our abilities and decisions. So you're turbulent, self-conscious and sensitive to stress, likely to experience a wide range of emotions, and to be success-driven, which is a good quality. Perfectionistic, I know you said you like to get things done and eager to improve. So once again, I don't see any of these as bad qualities. I think they're all good qualities to have. And there might be some areas on here that you don't necessarily agree with, but it's kind of good to see a new perspective on who you are and to kind of consider, what your personality traits are. So let's kind of click on these and see more detailed what this means. So the defender, personality. So we're not going to go through all of this, obviously, and I know you did the assessment, so you probably went through this already. Let's just read some of this. So you're quite unique. many of the other qualities defy the definition of their individual traits. Analytical abilities, though reserved, you have well-developed people skills and social relationships. Defenders are often receptive to change and new ideas. And I know that you said earlier, you don't adapt as well as to change as you would like to. Defenders are true altruists, meeting kindness with kindness in excess and engaging the work and people they believe in with enthusiasm and generosity. So once again, goes back to helping people. I mean, you have to meet kindness with kindness and be engaged into the work and, you know, be enthusiastic about it sometimes. Let's go down. I think oh, look, defenders you may know. Beyonce, Queen Elizabeth II, Aretha Franklin, and Vin Diesel. I think it's always cool to look through those because, you know, these are perceived as celebrities. And I mean, they are. Queen Elizabeth is a queen. But it's cool to kind of like group yourself with those people. So let's go over some of the strengths and weaknesses. This can help you in the long run, you know, when you're considering your career. You know, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What's going to help you? What's going to set you back? So some of the strengths, it looks like supportive, reliable and patient, imaginative, and observant. And if counseling is what you want to go into, then these are really good qualities to have or strengths to have. Enthusiastic, loyal and hardworking, good practical skills. Would you say that these are your strengths? Are there any strengths missing that you feel you have?
I think those are pretty much accurate. I think most of them are right. I don't think of any other ones that may be missing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to weaknesses. So earlier we said, you know, they're emotionally involved, and sometimes too emotionally involved, and that could lead to taking things too personally. Repression of feelings, being too humble or too shy. Overloading, so taking on a lot of work and stressing yourself out, and then being reluctant to change. There's that one that we talked about. So these challenges can be particularly hard to address since defender personalities value traditions and history highly in their decisions. So a situation sometimes needs to reach a breaking point before defenders are persuaded by circumstance. You said earlier that you often stay in a job until you just can't do it anymore and you have to get out. So
yeah, this is fairly accurate. Everything is to the T.
And it's interesting to see yourself but in words that, you know, you haven't put them into words yourself. So it's interesting to kind of look back and see like, oh, am I too altruistic? So, and altruism is a really great quality to have. But as it says here, willing to let things slide, believe things will get better soon, or not wanting to burden others. And this would make sense if you want to help people, you don't necessarily want to burden them, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I think this was really interesting to look at. I mean, even for me. So how did it feel for you to kind of go through all of these? How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I definitely think having you explain a lot of this just kind of validates where I should lead to next. And I think the 16 personalities really has reflected my own personality, especially the weaknesses. I think that's all of me and more. So I'm surprised how accurate it really is.
And the thing with weaknesses is those are things you could always work on. So even in your current job, in your future jobs, or even how you've worked on those weaknesses from previous jobs to now. So it is good to look at both strengths and weaknesses, because you need to remind yourself that you're capable of doing things while still working on things. So I know you just said a lot of it suits you. So let's kind of, now that we've gone over your personalities, your values, let's click on career paths. And kind of go through this, because I want to narrow down some career fields for you so that you can look, so we can go into further detail on those career fields and how, or if you would be well suited for those career fields. Let's go back up top. Backbone of the modern workforce. No other personality type is well suited to be of service of others. So you're helping people. They enjoy being supportive. And I know you said you're practical. You like numbers, see things through a practical solution. And then people with the defender personality type can always be counted on to remember birthday, graduation. That's interesting. Feel pleasantly and do good. All right, well, we don't have to go through this, but I think this is interesting to look and go through all of it. Let's see what this conclusion says. It probably just wraps everything up for us. Look, you need to have a plan. I know that's something you said you were working on. But that's why you're here. So taking that first step and coming here to career counseling is working your way towards creating a plan. So after going through your personalities, values, like I said, and considering your work experience and educational background, what are 3 career fields you could see yourself working in? Or 2. We'll go for 2.
So I could definitely see myself still with counseling field, and I guess potentially teaching others or becoming like a professor.
Okay. Yeah, and I can say now that after reviewing all this with you, I could see you going into either of those career paths. But now that we've kind of narrowed it down to those 2, during our next session, we're just kind of going to take a look at, the different possibilities. If you want to be a professor for criminal justice or even psychology, what are the educational requirements? What are the experience requirements? Is it within the salary range you want? Is it in the environment that you want it to be in? And then the same goes for counseling, because that seems to be the one, you keep coming back to. What are the requirements for that? So we'll kind of go through and look at that. I'll even pull up something on the screen, some internet resources so that we can go over salary, other requirements like education, experience, and also just look at, if that's really what you want to do. But does that sound like a plan?
Yep. Yeah, it does. Sounds
all right. So I'm happy that these assessments kind of gave you a different perspective on yourself. I feel like that's really beneficial for you, especially right now going through this process of heading towards a different career. And even in the future, these can be beneficial. But let's focus on right now and we narrowed it down to counseling, or possibly a professor. So next week, we'll stick to those two, and if anything pops up along the way, we'll kind of deal with it as it comes.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Thank
right. Hi, Marissa. So I just kind of want to check in with you from last week, just to kind of see where you are after having a week of being able to digest all that information we covered. So how are you feeling? Have you had any more thoughts?
Yeah. So I guess I'm thinking more on counseling maybe. Just because a lot of my assessments and personality kind of reflected more of helping people. So I think that job will be more direct.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did circle back to that one a couple of times last week, and all your traits and your personality type seem to match up with the qualities necessary to be a counselor or to go into the counseling field. So I know we said we would go and look at these internet resources to kind of dissect, salary requirements and just kind of like what the job would look like. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll just kind of go through this together, and we'll look up just the title of the job, and we'll go through and just look at the information that pops up.
Okay.
Let me find it. All right. Okay. So this is just one that I picked because I like all the information that it kind of gives you. So I'm just going to type it in up here. So we'll type in counseling. Let's see what it gets for this. Okay. So here's just like a list of the duties. And this is grouping substance abuse, behavioral, and mental health together. So evaluate clients, their mental, physical health, addiction, which is what you're working with now. So I'm sure you have to evaluate their health. Develop, recommend, and review treatment goals and plans. Assist clients in developing skills and behaviors that are necessary for them to recover or cope with their mental health. Work with clients, teach clients, refer clients, and maybe even conduct outreach programs to help people identify signs of addiction or other behavioral issues. So let's go. Mental health counselors provide treatment to individuals, families, couples, and groups. Some work with specific populations. So that would be something you would need to consider. What's a population you want to work with? You know now that drug and alcohol is not the population you want to work with. Have you thought about what population you might want to work with?
Yeah, it'd probably be more like for mental health individuals, adults specifically.
Adults, okay. So you're treating clients, obviously, with a variety of conditions. There's a couple of them listed there. Also help with mental and emotional health issues and relationship problems. So that's just kind of an overview of what you would be doing. Obviously, you would be doing a lot more work than what's listed here. But let's take a look at the work environment. So counselors had about 320,000 jobs in 2019. And then these are a list of the largest employers. So outpatient abuse centers were the largest at 19%, individual and family services at 16, hospitals 10, residential 10, and government 8. So the drug and alcohol facility that you work at now, I guess would fall under this residential at
Mhm.
10%. But there are other environments that aren't listed here that are listed down here. So it looks like prisons, probation and parole agencies, juvenile detention facilities, which I don't know, might be something along the lines you find that you might be interested in with your criminology master's degree.
Yeah.
And then, so most counselors work full time. And then it's more so, it says here with the inpatient facilities, maybe some outpatient, you might have to work, evenings, nights, or weekends. So now let's look at some of the requirements. So how to become a counselor. Most positions require at least a bachelor's degree. It says although educational requirements can vary, a master's degree and an internship is typically required to become a mental health counselor. So since that's what you want to do, you would have to keep, consider a master's degree in mental health counseling.
Okay.
And then we kind of went over education. I want to go down to licenses, certifications, and registrations. So all states require these counselors to have a master's degree, and at least 2,000 to 4,000 hours of supervised clinical experience. And then on top of that, you have to pass a state-issued exam, which I mentioned earlier about the licensure, and you must continue education every year. Of course, that's a long time from now. You need to, of course, take steps ahead of that, like looking at what university you would like to go to. But we'll look at that after, because I also want to go into look at some information about maybe becoming a professor. So if you were to become a professor, what subject or maybe topic would you want to focus on?
It doesn't really matter. It would be either criminology or psychology.
Okay. So let's look up. Did you want to look at anything else related to this? Like maybe, I feel like we already looked at pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, it's all about the same.
Let's look up professor. We'll do psychology professor. Okay, we'll just do professor. Okay. So it looks like the employment, oh, this is wage. So the median wage is 37, but it looks like you can see these percentiles down here, but that would be about in the 10% of the annual wage, and then the median is 73%. And then as you continue going up, it continues to go up. So you could potentially make almost $150,000. Of course, that's after all the other steps are taken. So it looks like, so colleges, the annual wage is 85, and then you see junior colleges at 84. And if you just keep going down, employment of psychology teachers by state. This is from 2017, but let's see. The dark green is the most. And it looks like Pennsylvania is one of those. It's the employment a little over 2,000. The annual wage is 80,000. So this salary is looking a little bit better than that of a mental health counselor. But this profession also might take longer to reach than a mental health counselor. I know we talked about location didn't really matter to you, just not in a big city. Would you plan on staying in Pennsylvania as of right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like Pennsylvania is the fourth, well, the second highest out of those 5.
Okay.
So after going over those that information for mental health counselors, do you feel that field kind of matches those needs? Or yeah, we'll go over needs first.
For the mental health counselor?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it met most of my needs. I think the only thing out of everything is just the salary.
Yeah. And eventually, if you continue to work, and it looks like most career fields, the more you work, the more you make. So, if this is a 1, 5, 10-year plan, you'll obviously be more advanced in your plan in 10 years than you will be 5 years from now. But do you feel that it is practical for you to go into this field?
Yeah, for mental health counseling. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Considering your educational background and also your work experience now, I feel it is pretty practical for you too. So kind of going back to what I said about Holland in our last session, and how the closer your personality type and work environment are to one another, the happier that you'll be in that work environment. So do you see yourself being satisfied or fulfilled in the mental health field by being a mental health counselor?
Yeah, I think so. Ultimately, it does meet my needs, and it matches a lot with my personality. So I could foresee myself being a mental health therapist.
Yeah, I definitely, especially after reviewing your personality traits and personality types, I could definitely see how your qualities would match those of a mental health counselor. So the next thing would just to be to consider, what are the next steps? What do you need to do to be a mental health counselor? And when we went and looked at that resource online, we know that you need a master's degree in counseling. So would you consider going to the school you went to get your criminology master's degree, or would you like to branch out and maybe look at a different university?
So I think at this point, since I've left the college, I don't mind branching out.
Okay.
It's been a couple years, so.
Yeah. And it might be good to look up, accredited universities, because that's important to go to an accredited university, and also a university that helps you get closer to that licensure and also get that experience. So we'll do that right now, actually. I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, would you look at this? First thing that popped up. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So let's look at CalU. Let's see what they have to offer. I'm going to type in counseling. Oh, clinical mental health counseling master's degree. So it'd be Master's of Science, MS. So this is just a little bit about the program. Fulfills all requirements. You need to become a nationally certified counselor, so that's important. Provides all courses you need to pursue a career as an LPC, which is important too. especially because salary is important. Becoming a licensed professional counselor will get you one step closer to, making more money essentially. So it looks like the master's degree will take 2 years. Do you think that's appropriate for your job now? Will that interfere with anything you have going on in your life right now?
No, that'll be fine.
Okay. So it's definitely something to consider. And then this is just some of the things they offer. So 750 hours of practicum and clinical fieldwork. And that's good. You need experience, as we looked on that internet resource. It says you need experience. There's evening classes if you need a more flexible schedule. And it looks like, I know during the first session you said because of your loans, that's why you're looking for a decent salary. So it says here, benefit from the low cost and graduate assistantships of one of the most affordable counseling master's degree in PA. So, I mean, that would be something to consider, especially graduate assistantships. You could get a GA position or potentially get a GA position, and that could help kind of ease how much money you're putting into your schooling. So highlights, top accreditation. Accreditation provides recognition, and that's something to consider too. Is the university accredited? Do you want it to be accredited? Named CalU Best in State Online College. It's marked the second best considering value for clinical mental health counseling in PA. And then some degree benefits, which we just kind of went over. So of course, gaining knowledge on the clinical mental health field, developing a level of self-awareness, acquiring those traits and skills needed, to be a counselor, which is why it's beneficial to go over those assessments, because you know that you do have some of those traits to be a mental health counselor, and maybe even some of the skills, but now you just need to work on that knowledge in advancing those skills and traits. But this is definitely an option, and of course you can by yourself go and look through those universities, but CalU might be a viable option for you. So I would see how the application process goes with either CalU or another school of choice. And then after that, you would just take the steps you need to take to begin that program. But I hope that going through the assessments and having to do those along with going through the internet resources, you found beneficial. And also, you can utilize those as you're going through this process to kind of reference and see, okay, am I really fit to be a mental health counselor? And have, those results kind of back you up. And like you said, validate yourself. Like, okay, I can do this. I have the traits and I have the skills. But do you have any questions? Is there anything you're taking away from this?
Yeah. So I guess just taking away, we're being able to see maybe this counseling is the direction I need to go. And it just looks like I need to go back to college to get my master's in counseling. So that's something I'm going to continue to look into and see what college is out there. Especially CalU is going to be an option since it says it is affordable. That'll be easier for me too.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to go through that together. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. But other than that, I'm glad we, could go through this together and that you kind of got some information and, maybe a little bit of a plan for your future career. But thank you, and come in if you ever need anything.
Thank you. Thank you.